Welcome to the deep dive. You've brought some really fascinating research today. We're looking at traditional medicine meeting modern science. Specifically, we're doing a deep dive into how medicinal plants are used for type 2 diabetes mellitus in Bolivia, and crucially, how much of that use is actually backed up by science.
Yeah, exactly. Our sources are mainly built around a pretty thorough ethnobotanical review.
So the mission today is really to pull out the key bits. What plants are people actually using? How are they preparing them? And maybe most importantly, which ones are already showing real promise in scientific studies?
And it's important to set the scene here. This isn't just a niche topic. Diabetes mellitus is a huge global issue. The WHO flags it as a leading cause of death worldwide.
Yeah.
And the numbers, well, they've just skyrocketed in recent decades. We're talking over 420 million people affected globally now.
Wow, that's a staggering.
It is. And it puts incredible strain on health systems, especially, in low and middle income countries. Think Latin America. Accessing conventional treatments, affording them, it's a major challenge. And that's where traditional options become so critical.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That really frames why traditional medicine is just so vital in many parts of the world. Our sources mention that, I think, somewhere between 65% and 80% of people in developing countries rely on it for their primary health care, mostly because of cost and access issues.
Absolutely. And bringing it back to Bolivia specifically, the WHO figures suggest about 6.6% of the population there has diabetes. For many of those people, particularly with type 2, medicinal plants aren't just a backup plan. They're often the primary treatment, or at least a really important complementary one.
Right.
And if you think about why, the appeal of phytotherapy or plant-based medicine is pretty clear, isn't it? These plants are usually easy to get hold of, they're cheap, and the reported side effects are generally very low. Plus, they can offer this irreplaceable adjuvant effect, meaning they work alongside the standard drugs.
Helping maybe reduce the dose needed or pushing back complications.
Exactly, delaying serious problems.
Yeah.
It's about using what's available locally and sustainably.
So this knowledge has been built up over generations. How did the researchers actually map it all out? What did they find?
Well, the review itself identified 35 different plant species.
35, okay.
Yeah, spread across 21 botanical families, all used traditionally for type 2 diabetes in Bolivia.
And are these mostly local plants or things brought in from elsewhere?
It's actually a pretty even split. About 52% are native to Bolivia. The other 48% are introduced species that have become part of the local practice over time.
Interesting. So which types of plants show up most often? Are there dominant families?
Definitely. Two families really stand out in the data. Asteraceae, that's the daisy and sunflower family, they account for 19%, so 7 species. And then Fabaceae, the legume or bean family, that's 17%, 6 species.
Asteraceae. That one rings a bell. Isn't it known globally in traditional medicine?
It absolutely is. It's considered a real powerhouse. Why?
Yeah.
Because plants in this family are often rich in what we call secondary metabolites. Things like volatile oils, terpenoids. These are the active compounds. And crucially, they're often extractable with simple methods, like boiling water. Perfect for folk remedies.
Okay. And what about the form? Are we talking trees, shrubs, herbs?
Herbs are the most common, about 34%. But trees and shrubs aren't far behind, both around 29%. So a real mix of growth forms being utilized.
Right, which leads to the practical side. If you're using these plants, how do you actually, prepare the medicine? What parts do you use?
Good question. Leaves are the clear winner there. About 30% of the uses involved leaves.
Okay.
Followed by roots, that's 14%, and then bark at 9%.
And the preparation itself, is it complicated?
Actually, mostly very simple. 2 methods dominate overwhelmingly: infusion and decoction.
Infusion. That's basically like making a strong tea, right? Soaking it in hot water.
Exactly, just steeping the plant material in boiling water. Decoction is a bit more intense. You usually grind up the material first, and then you boil it for longer to get a more concentrated liquid extract.
Simple, accessible methods. Makes sense.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, connecting that traditional practice to modern science. The rate of scientific corroboration is actually astonishingly high.
Oh yeah, how high?
Well, out of those 35 species we mentioned, 25 have had their anti-diabetic properties confirmed in scientific studies.
25 out of 35. That's huge. That's a massive validation of the traditional knowledge, isn't it?
It really is. It shows the healers, through generations of observation and, frankly, trial and error, really figured out which plants work.
But okay, there's always a but in science, right? What's the caveat here? How are these properties proven?
Right, and the review is clear about this. It's an important point. For most of those 25 species, the proof comes from studies on animal models.
Ah,
Right.
okay. So lab rats mostly.
Typically, yes. Usually rats where diabetes has been chemically induced using things like streptozotocin or alloxin. Scientists basically give the rats diabetes, then test the plant extracts to see if they lower blood sugar, improve insulin response, that sort of thing.
So it works in rats. That's a critical first step, obviously.
A very critical step. But proving it works safely and effectively in humans, that's a whole different ballgame. A much bigger hurdle to clear.
Still, that validation in animal models is significant. But did any make the leap? Are there plants on this list that have been successfully studied in humans?
Yes, and this is really exciting. 3 species from the list have documented clinical studies in humans, directly confirming what traditional healers knew.
Okay, let's hear about them. This is where the potential really comes alive.
First up is Erythroxylum coca. Coca leaf.
Coca. Okay, that's obviously a plant with a complex reputation.
It is, due to its regulated status. But a key study conducted in Bolivia looked at its traditional use for metabolism. They gave non-diabetic healthy individuals 5 grams of the leaves. Some chewed them, some drank an infusion like a tea.
And the results.
Pretty dramatic. They measured postprandial glycemia, that's blood sugar levels after eating. The control group averaged just over 100 milli-GDL. But in the groups consuming coca, whether chewed or infused, the levels dropped significantly, down to about 82 milli-GDL.
Wow, that's a noticeable drop, a direct impact on blood sugar handling.
A concrete measured effect.
Yeah.
Then there's Opuntia ficus indica. You might know it as prickly pear cactus. Locally in Bolivia, it's often called penca.
Right, I've heard of prickly pear being used.
Clinical studies confirm that eating it leads to really low glycemic and insulinemic indices. What that means, basically, is it helps prevent those sharp, dangerous spikes in blood sugar after a meal, which are a major problem for type 2 diabetes patients.
That's really important.
Importantly, with no reported side effects in those studies.
Okay, that's huge. So coca, prickly pear. What's the third one with human trials?
The third one is a bit of a global health star, Linum usadecimum, flaxseed, known as linaza in Bolivia.
Ah, flaxseed. Yeah, that's widely available.
And the clinical study results were really impressive, showing benefits beyond just blood sugar. Patients took a 10-gram supplement daily for just 1 month. They saw significant reductions across the board. Blood glucose drops by nearly 20%. Glycated hemoglobin, or HbA1c, that long-term measure of blood sugar control, decreased by over 15%.
That's substantial, especially the HbA1c.
Absolutely. But it didn't stop there. Total cholesterol went down 14%, triglycerides dropped 17.5%. So it's not just managing sugar, it's boosting overall cardiovascular health too.
Those 3 are powerful examples. Coca, prickly pear, flaxseed, all validated in human studies based on traditional use.
Exactly. And beyond those 3, there are many others from the list that showed really potent effects in the lab, even if they haven't reached human trials yet. Their mechanisms are fascinating too.
Like what? Give us an example.
Okay, take Smolanthus sonchifolius, or yakan. You might see this root in health food stores sometimes. Lab studies show its leaf extracts don't just reduce glucose and increase plasma insulin. They're also strong inhibitors of certain enzymes. Specifically, carbohydrate hydrolyzing enzymes like amylase and a glucosidase.
Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
It means the extracts help slow down how quickly your body breaks down carbohydrates from your food and absorbs the resulting sugar into your bloodstream.
Ah, so it interferes with the sugar absorption process itself.
Precisely, a direct mechanism of action.
Interesting. Any other familiar names pop up in the lab verified list?
Oh yes, aloe vera, the gel extract.
Aloe, really, for diabetes.
Yep. In diabetic rat models, the gel extract showed a significant reduction in blood glucose. And get this, in terms of antioxidant properties, it actually outperformed the common diabetes drug glibenclamide in one study.
Wow, outperforming a standard drug on antioxidant levels. That's quite something.
It is. And then there's Allium sativum, just plain old garlic.
Garlic. Okay, that's in everyone's kitchen.
Extracts were shown, again in diabetic rats, to reduce serum glucose, cholesterol, and triglycerides. One study even found it more effective than glibenclamide.
So things like aloe and garlic, common household items, they have real verified potential here based on these studies.
That's the picture emerging. A vast resource of traditional knowledge, much of it now scientifically validated, at least preliminarily in the lab.
But that brings us back to the gap, doesn't it? We have these 35 plants used traditionally, 25 showing promise in labs, but only 3 tested properly in humans.
Exactly. That's the big takeaway from the review in terms of future direction. There's this huge untapped potential.
And the review even highlighted some plants where there's basically no scientific research yet, right? Despite being traditionally used.
That's correct. Plants like Aspidosperma rigidum, Euterpe pricatoria, which is a type of palm, Schuria octorostata, a couple of Bauhinia species, Juglans boliviana, Bolivian walnut, Uncaria guyanensis, cat's claw, Smilax aspera. For these, traditional healers use them, but modern science just hasn't investigated their effects for diabetes at all, as far as the review could find.
So a whole area of traditional knowledge is just sitting there waiting to be explored scientifically.
Pretty much. And that really sums up the major gap identified. While the traditional use is largely validated by these initial findings, what's desperately needed is more in-depth biochemical analysis and critically more clinical analysis in humans. That's the only way we can really understand how to safely and effectively use these plants, potentially developing new, much more accessible and affordable medications.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think the main point is this deep connection, this convergence between generations of traditional wisdom in Bolivia and what modern science is starting to confirm about treating type 2 diabetes. These aren't just old wives' tales. Many of these practices seem to be pharmacologically sound therapies passed down because, well, they worked.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on that gap we discussed. Think about it. Only 3 of these plants have actually made it through human clinical trials so far. 3 out of 35 used traditionally, or 3 out of the 25 already verified in labs. Imagine the potential impact not just in Bolivia, but globally if those other 22 lab-verified plants underwent thorough, rigorous clinical testing in humans. We might just find that the next breakthrough, low-cost, accessible diabetes treatment, isn't synthesized in a high-tech lab, but is actually rooted quite literally in the ancient traditions of the Andes.